All right, welcome to the Stampscapes lab. We're going to try another piece of stamp board. Actually, it's Claybord Smooth. I still call it stamp board. Stamp board was the smaller incarnations of this type of surface, which are now called Claybord art tiles, okay? For information on this, you can check the internet or you can check our website, what is stamp board and everything like that. We don't sell it anymore, but you can get Claybord Smooth from any, well, not any, but a lot of different art supply sellers. Okay, so we're going with this kind of rocky shore piece right here, but it's going to represent more of like a desert wash area. And I'm going to do a composition that I've already done before, but I really wanted to do it on this type of board because I love kind of playing around with the different textures that you can achieve on this type of board. But I'm going to do this roughly about. But I'm going to have those people walking down in the wash because that's really kind of where you that's the easiest place to kind of walk around in the desert from what I've found. It's just, you get this area that's kind of cleared out, and up here is where all the foliage is growing, the bushes and everything like that that you have to kind of walk around. So in these washes, that's where it gets kind of cleared out all the time. As long as it's not like super sandy and deep or anything like that, which it's usually not because it gets washed out. So it's the easiest place to kind of walk around in. Okay, so a little bit of kind of a foundation. Wow, there's a lot of ink still on that stamp. Okay, I'm going to alter it a little bit though. We don't want to do the exact same thing. Okay, I'm just using dye-based ink, which is absolutely fine to utilize on this type of surface. The surface pretty much takes just about anything that you want to use on it. Versifine Clair, would be fine on it. That oil-based type of media, no problem with this type of surface. You can use acrylic paints if you want to. You can probably get a little bit of colored pencil on there. You wouldn't be able to build it up too much because this surface is really smooth, but it's not like a coated glossy or something like that. And it's a smooth clay surface. It's a soft kaolin clay, so you can use media on there and it's going to absorb that. It's not like a fired ceramic tile or something like that, okay? That would be something completely different. I was always convinced when using this that this is the most beautiful stamping surface that we can utilize. Okay, it doesn't mean that it's like the ideal thing to stamp on, if you're going to make a card or something like that, although you can make a really special card from something like this. It's like about the thickness of a masonite or like a clipboard or something of that sort. In fact, it really feels like those masonite clipboards in a way, but it's not masonite. It's like a a museum quality archival surface that they utilize this kaolin clay over the top of. So it's basically, if you ever heard of scratchboard, a lot of people haven't used scratchboard, but if you've heard of it or used it, that you can kind of scratch back into it. Well, it's a similar type of coating on here, except on a piece of stiff, museum quality panel, as opposed to like a piece of Bristol board or something of that sort, which scratchboard is usually on. Okay, so you can see I'm just stamping out my Joshua trees in here. It's like a walkthrough, maybe Joshua Tree National Park or something like that. That's not the only place Joshua trees are. They're all over the place. But that's a place that I'm very familiar with in terms of hiking and rock climbing, scrambling, camping. And that was my favorite place, I think, to go camping and, you know, different types of recreation. And because it was, you know, within a couple hours drive for me, I can go out there and return on the same day, which we usually do most of the time. But it is also full of rocks, and I love rocks to play on and to, you know, call it scrambling, you know, go climbing on. All right, I did that impression a little bit light there. Should have, yeah, inked up a little bit more. That's fine. All right, do we put? Maybe that's a little bit too much here. Some Joshua trees are pretty big. And there's different types, different varieties of them. And they aren't cactus, as far as I know. I don't think they're, I don't know, yucca. They're not cacti, are they? Probably more like a succulent type of thing. All right, going for a little bit more depth here, like that. And let's go for a kind of a lighter impression to make, hopefully, it looks like it's a little farther off in the distance. Okay, that one I kind of stamped off quite a bit. Yeah, it's a little bit lighter than that one, not by much. That takes me back, looking at that. I don't know if I should have went with all Joshua trees here, but oh well. Let's see how it goes. Maybe I'll mix something else into this one. Some of the rock clusters here. Since this is on the board too, I'm going to try to add quite a bit of textures in here because that's really the fun thing to play around with on this type of board. You can go back and scratch all kinds of little textures and highlights in here. And for me, that's the really, you know, a lot of the fun of this type of material. Okay, a little bit of a cholla cacti here. It's making it kind of dense in here, but I keep mentioning on these videos, I'm really finding that you can add quite a bit to these scenes, and to me, it doesn't feel like overly, I don't know, whatever cluttered or anything like that, just because there's more space in kind of this desert type of flora. Um, Things aren't just like covering things up and obscuring things. Okay, like if I use the equivalent in like pine trees or something like that, it might be a little bit more difficult to see. But yeah, with this desert type of flora, yeah, I'm really using a lot more um, stuff, imagery, within a scene than I have become accustomed to doing. For like 30 years, of doing stamping. So, I mean, it's the same type of process, but it's just a little bit of a different mindset here. Okay, let's put our characters down about right here. Couple and dog. Okay. They have their trailer over here with all their camping gear. All right, before I add in some little textures in here, I'm seeing if I want to add anything else in here. Let's add in a little, I don't know, whatever visual focal point here with the Roadrunner. It's like they've walked that way and the Roadrunner's running across the wash here. Which might be running right now with all the rains that we've had here in Southern California. All right, so it's a pretty small image. Don't press down too hard on it. You don't want to squash that little like beak. So, just adjust your pressure from, stamping out these larger types of images, like the shore and the larger Joshua trees. These ones are smaller too in here, so just remember to do that. Kind of, we develop a little bit of muscle memory when stamping, so yeah, just adjust accordingly. Kind of using this as a little bit of a tool for shading as well. Condensing these little tiny rocks impressions around the base of my objects and kind of leaving some open area in here for a little bit of lighting, I guess. And let's see. I noticed I have my cumulus cloud here. Alto cumulus, that is. So I might as well use that too. I have a lot of open space up there. Let's wipe off a little bit of this bottom so it stamps out a little bit lighter. Like it's transitioning down into kind of a horizon light. And it's a horizon light because we're defining it as such this way by, having it a little bit lighter. Oops, I didn't stamp that middle portion right there very well. I need a little bit more pressure, but you can just fill it in because it is a texture stamp. But do you see where it's darker up there and it gets lighter down here? All right, now what happened there? Let me do that. Let me try that again. Maybe I just didn't use enough pressure or something. Yeah, okay. That is what we want. here. So I'll have that little bit of a, they call it a mackerel sky like that. But that should be fun to play around with also with the stamp board subtractive mark process, which you don't have to do, but you can use it like a scratchboard technique here. Okay, so let's see. My imagery is a little bit moist. I can still see like some wet ink in these kind of real thick areas here. But let's just go ahead and start toning in. I tell you what, I've been using just all black on my pieces. I think I just used black on this one. I don't know if I used any gray, but let's go ahead and use some gray on this. Let's go for a little bit more. Oh, a little bit of a tonal variation here. I mean, it's not going to be much because it's black and gray, but I think we can get a little bit of a variation in here. Let's see, I can use a little bit of a re-inker if I can find it. Oh. Gray isn't a color that I use very often. Pausing video, let me go get that gray re-inker. All right, I'm scratching that gray. I have a gray re-inker of Marvy somewhere around here, but it wasn't a color that I used in my workshops, so or in my make and takes, so I just don't have too much of it around. But I'm sure there's a bottle somewhere. I'm going to use Peach Bellini here instead, so I'm going to give this a little bit of a warmer tinge. You can't get Peach Bellini anymore, sorry to say. Just any kind of like a lot of you buy your pads with a re-inker, so you know, something like an antique linen, a distress ink. If you're gonna kind of follow along with me here and kind of replicate this type of scenario here. Okay, so this should give it a little bit more of a warm tinge, of course. And this is going to be a light color, and I do expect to have a little bit of like smearing on here, okay? Now, if I just let this set up a little bit more, it'd be fine, probably. Here, let me heat set this too. Heat setting on this board like this, it makes it really easy because it's not going to bow or bend or anything like that. So let's do that. Let's take advantage of that. I didn't even think about that until now. You can just keep the heat, in this one area for as long as you want. It's not going to, like I said, it's not going to influence the whatever the stability or flatness of this piece here, because it's on on a board. So, okay, so let's start adding in some tone here. Now remember, I do have a little bit of gray up here, and if I notice here, it is probably picking up a little bit of that black. But that wouldn't be a problem here. Remember, I'm going to use this Peach Bellini as kind of a foundation for black over the top of it anyway, so yeah, I just don't want to have like a ton of my black impressions going back into solution or something like that. This works even faster here to slide it in like that. Or a streak in that tone color. I'm going a little bit darker than, you know, what I would normally do, because I'm going to be scratching back kind of in strategically some of the lighting back into this scene. Okay. So you don't do that though with paper. Paper, you kind of want to put on the brakes a little bit, you know, and not overtone a piece, because if you want that lighting to be in there on a piece of paper, you can't just like remove the media that you've just applied to it. Okay, you can't remove, you know, besides like some bleaching technique or something like that that we're not going to do, you know, on a piece of cardstock. So you know, you want to go for retention. I'm not overdoing it like by a huge amount, you know, so that's roughly going to be the lighting. But see, like in here, like this lighting kind of in this upper area like that. See, it's already kind of dark like that, but I'll kind of scratch back into these areas more kind of strategically textural, whatever, highlights or reflected light back in the piece. Okay, now these trees have been sitting there in a little bit of wet ink for a while, so when I go like that, it's like really removing some of it, so I'll be careful about kind of going over it again. It made the ink a little bit wet, my black ink impression's a little bit wet, and now it's kind of like, you know, smearing a little bit more. But again, you know, on this type of piece, you just don't want it to, like, you know, you don't want it to smear so much that you can't, you know, tell what the imagery is or something like that. But you can be, you know, you can take it pretty far on this board again, because you can remove ink. You know, it's amazing that way. It's amazing to have that ability, you know, to do that in any type of stamp artwork, because we normally can't do that, you know, in stamping, crafting. Okay, so see, there's a little bit of a, you know, vignette in here. Oh, I can hear it raining again. San Diego didn't get too much rain. Well, in some areas maybe, but some areas we're getting like in Southern California, like in the Los Angeles area. I don't know, maybe some areas we're getting like 12 inches or something like that in a, I don't know, maybe a 30-hour period or something like that. Pretty crazy. Some of the most rain I've ever kind of heard of in that period of time. Okay, so kind of enhancing some other kind of darker areas like that. Enhancing the shadows, I should say. A little bit stronger application in my four corners to really kind of round out this piece, or to kind of contain it from a compositional standpoint. In order to get those corners really dark, you have to kind of tap it like this, because if you wipe like that, you'll be kind of wiping off the ink at this point in time, just because you've kind of achieved a, you know, pretty close to super saturation, at least on the surface. Okay, it's probably still absorbing into the clay a little bit. Yeah, see, even kind of touching it right here with my finger, it's like removing that little bit of ink there. So And it's because it's largely due to that foundation of a lot of ink underneath this black. Okay, but that also makes it really easy for me to blend in my color in this, my black ink really smoothly, as opposed to doing, like black on a dry surface and it's not going to go anywhere. But if it's on this, and it's not because it's on the Claybord, I mean, you can do this type of, base layer coat on pieces of semi-gloss, maybe not so much on matte, maybe you could, if you really use a lot of like your reinker fluid as your base coat. And, it makes for really super easy blending with your darker colors to come because, you're going wet into moist as opposed to wet into, or moist into absolutely dry, where it's grabbing that color and just, it's almost like drying on the spot. But this is like, the black ink is almost floating on top of that base layer coat at this point in time. And I think that should do it. That was pretty fast, to do this piece right here. We're going monochromatic, so there's not a lot of layers of colors or anything like that. I'm just kind of curious about this. I haven't used colored pencils like that, like too much on this type of surface before, but I'm going to add a few little kind of directional shadows to some of these objects in here. The lighting is coming from in here, so I'm going to just add a little bit of shadows coming from our characters here. And here's the Roadrunner right here, so don't forget about your little Roadrunner here. Now I'm adding this onto my scene right here, but I could, I could scratch off the colored pencil work in here if I need to. So this little shadow kind of anchors our objects down into the scene more. Our objects are more interactive with the lighting of the scene. Okay, so see that little bit, sort of those Joshua trees just aren't kind of floating in there. All right, so I think that this is ready for some ink removal techniques on here. So what we have is our lighting in here, and we have a reflected light, right along the walking area in here. Oh, this is what I was thinking too. So I have those Ocotillo images right here and kind of obscured right over here. I'm going to put another one right in here. Here's the thing that I'm kind of uncertain about, with the board, because I want to put a lot of scratch kind of highlights in here. But so if I put this right over the top of it like this, I can't get in like the general kind of removal of media underneath it, because you can't really scratch into this board and do all these kind of like sharper types of highlights in there because you're going to be grooving into the board. So that if you stamp this over the top of that, this image is not going to stamp in those scratched, recessed areas. So kind of getting myself kind of refamiliarized with kind of image layering and kind of when to do it and where. Okay, so that being said, so this Ocotillo here, what I'll do is I'll largely have it kind of off on the sides where I'm not going to be putting in too many highlights on objects behind it, okay? So I'll go kind of low with this one. I don't want to go up and obscure that dog, although I did get kind of close to it. I'm holding this down too now because the board underneath, this image is really wet, okay? So and I'll put another one right over here. All right, so see these little images down here. They gave it a little bit more depth having this right there. And then it's kind of open right there for the people to walk right through. Or I don't know, maybe I closed off their pathway. Yeah, they can go right through here. That was a little bit far, so they walked around this way. All right, so let's take a look here and let's see what we can do. This is a little bit wet right here. Maybe I should hold off on doing my scratches. It's easier to kind of do these really nice crisp types of scratches and negative whatever space, defining marks into like dry clay. Okay, if it's a little bit wet, you know what I mean? It's like scratching into kind of the dampness of it. I mean, you can do that. I mean, this isn't like sopping wet or anything like that, but yeah, I really like this piece here. I'm going to give it a little bit of time to dry, and then I'll come back to it and finish it off. When I come back, I bet this is probably going to look a little bit lighter as this dries. It's probably going to not look quite as dark as when it looks, when it's wet. Everything looks kind of darker when it's wet, like clothes out of the washing machine or something like that, And that's the same thing with, with any type of artwork like this too, so. All right, but I don't think I'm going to have to do too much to it. We already have little bits of lighting here and there within this piece. I'll just kind of reiterate that, in a more textural way when we come back to it. Okay, we've given this piece about an hour to dry. I don't know if you can see, there's a little bit of a kind of a surface texture changed on it. It's a little bit more, it's a lot more flat, of course, because it's dry, but that will be remedied with the spray sealant that we use on this piece. And I think it is dry enough to proceed here with our, I don't know, it's kind of what they used to call kind of scratching back into surfaces. They used to call it paper engraving. I'm not doing an engraved style like this, but the fact of the matter is that we are kind of scratching back into the surface here. Okay, so let me show you what I'm doing here. Okay, so this is the rocky shore here, and you can see on this piece here that's just on, this one is on the semi-gloss cardstock, but on the top surfaces of these little ridges right in here, now on this one I just retain the white of the paper when I did it. But on this one here, we've removed a lot of that lighting in there by going over it with some extra tone. Now, I'm not just going to reveal all the white that was there in the first place. Otherwise, if I'm going to do that, then there was no point in toning this thing in right here. But see, right on the top ridge, I'm going to add a highlight, so it's going to be lighter underneath it in that same little narrow section there. Okay, so it's going to look a little bit more dimensional that way. And this is using a scratch knife or a scraper tool. This one is the one that looks more like a spoon. Kind of hard to find because the only one that makes it is Speedball. But it does come in a blister pack of 2 with this sharper point one. You can just get, these ones right here, but I don't know, if you're just starting out, it's good to have kind of both of these right here. And you can find these little calligraphy nib holders you know, at your local art store or something like that, or at Michael's probably has it. I think they used to have like a section with their drawing tools, and that's where you know, the calligraphy. I don't know. These days, it's probably not going to be a large section of it, but you know, those calligraphy nib holders used to be on that aisle. I haven't been into a Michael's in quite a while, but so I don't know what they have in there. Yeah, I used to see this blister pack of the scratch knives in there, because a lot of times they sell those little scratch knife or scratch board kits, you know, where it's like a little, you know, blacked out. Usually it's blacked out, and then you can scratch back into it, and you're revealing color underneath it. It's not the same as like this whiteboard, but they have those kind of those little activities. Most of the times it's for like kids, but I don't know. I've seen these types of things in there, but again, it's been years, so I don't know. I haven't like gone in there and seen. It might be online though. But you can see I'm just kind of revealing some of that lightness. Or I guess you can call it highlighting within the scene here. See those right in here and back in here. I'm kind of going back in here a little bit. You know, where it was all kind of dark and a little bit less defined. Okay, let's go down on this little water's edge right here. I'm doing these little nick kind of cuts into the board on the tops of some of these really small rocks to make it look like they're a little bit more dimensional, like that. And you can see this little ridge here really stands out quite a bit more. I put some highlighting right in there. See this one right here? Let's do the same thing right in here on some of the rocks on the other side of this sandy wash. I went like that just to bump off a little bit of this. It's almost like dust or something like that. It's not as fine as dust, but what you do is, you know, when you're scraping away on this, inevitably you're going to be scraping into, you know, both the ink and some of that board, and it, you know, it comes right off. All right, now there's a little bit of this harsh, see this black kind of area right in the alto cumulus cloud. It's a little bit dark right in there where I overlapped the two impressions of the alto cumulus. So I'm going to just go in here and kind of lighten some of that up a little bit. Like I said, this type of material is one of the most forgiving that you'll ever find, because not that you have to do subtractive marks like this, but the fact that we can, you know, to the point where, you know, you can almost do like an eraser, you know, type of, I don't know, whatever application, I don't know, subtraction, really, is really something. You know, it's one of the few times where you can go into something where you stamped out in inks and you can remove the ink, you know, just in a very strategic way, or wherever you want it to be removed from. Or, in here in this case, I'm not trying to remove it. I'm just trying to kind of knock it down a few values so it's not as dark in there. So I'm just scraping some of it off. I'm going for a very light kind of removal, a very fine removal that you can do, like, I don't know, whatever expressionistic types of marks where you're really gouging into the board if you want to. I'm a little bit heavy right here with the peach Bellini, so I'm just scraping some of it off right here. You know about drawing and some of the different terms you could do, like cross-hatching into here. Normally you're doing that with a positive application of ink, and applying it, but you can do cross-hatched ink removals, subtractive cross-hatching if you want to. Or just, anytime you have the standard kind of drawing techniques, you can apply them to this, but you're doing it in a subtractive, type of format. So it kind of balances it out, when you're adding and doing subtractive types of things in the same pattern. They can really complement each other. Let's get a little bit more gutsy. Here, let's go on to some of our Joshua trees and add a little bit of a highlight on them. I'm going to just add in a little bit of an outline on the left side of the Joshua tree branches, and over to the left side of the scene, I'm putting those highlights on the right side. So seeing this Joshua tree right here, really, it's really kind of obscure, right, in that dark area. So I can just do a little bit of a highlight like this, and kind of bring it out from the background a touch. It's kind of doing it in a very subtle way, though, because I'm just doing this really narrow little scratch on the tree like that. So you go for something really, pretty delicate, in other words, on there, and it really serves a pretty good, important, I don't know, whatever tip on lighting. It's when you put the highlights on certain sides of the trees, facing the light, it really reiterates that lighting within a scene. Okay, now again, I'm working with the sharp, real spear tip. It gives me a uniform kind of, removal of ink. So, the other one, the spoon shape can give me a much softer looking removal. So, different tools for different purposes. Let me say I'm going to add a little bit of the scratched texturing up in my illuminated sky area. I'm probably not going to do it over here unless it's just kind of trailing out there a little bit. Okay, I think that'll do it. I mean, you can put highlights in the background trees if you want to, but they're a bit distant for me. I mean, if I want to really bring something out, you certainly can. And I can do this in a very, delicate scratch, too. I mean, that looks okay, I guess. But let's see. So we have these ocotillas down here. I don't want to do too much on them. But, you can put a little highlight on, a couple of its branches if you want to. Again, it kind of just reiterates this idea of lighting coming from a certain area in the scene. So, see this right here? I put a few little highlights on that. I mean, it's real subtle because I don't want it to look like a, super bright highlight or anything like that. And the reason I say that is because I think it would stand out too much, maybe awkwardly too. All right, so there we have it, like that. It's a little bit of a warmer tinge to it. It's pretty fun working that way. Here, another pieces, but just in that gray scale type of look. And I will spray seal this. Now this is a perfect one for a gold border on here. But, oh, gosh. I don't like re-inking this pad too often, but it is a pretty good color. Let's see, this gold it completely dries out, whenever I'm not using it. So this is really caked on here. I don't know. Let's just use this. I don't want this. Now this gold hasn't separated. My silver ink re-inker just completely separated. It's like this. I don't know if you can see. It's like all water and it won't mix with this area. So I guess I should use this up, before it potentially dries. If it's going to dry like the silver one did. Okay, so gold. I need to be careful with this one here, because that's not absorbing into the surface at all. You can see it's just like slathered there. Okay, so let me see if I can get a good even application. That's not a very good application there, but let's see what we can do. So I'm just gonna go along like this because I don't want it to see that right there? Look at that edge like that. Isn't that great? And you can see it like this. I can kind of push in there a little bit more where you get a little bit of that gold border on the front of it too. And that can look really good. It's just a little hint of the edge on the front. It kind of frames things off. There we go, like that. There you go, a little bit more. Okay, and I need to be careful here because this is real wet on the edge, so I'm going to hold it like this, I think, and try to apply some of it on the top of the scene. Looks okay. And one more side. Okay, kind of like that. It's a little bit uneven on this last one, maybe because I've used up a lot of the ink, I don't know. Okay, there we go. That last one, I kind of built it up pretty good. I was thinking, maybe I didn't get it all great on this first side. That's a little bit better, pretty even. Okay, so we'll spray seal this. And again, I'm using the Krylon triple thick. on this piece here, but I better wait for these edges to dry too, a little bit at least. So Brilliance ink is a fast drying ink, so it's not going to take too long, but I'll probably give it, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes or something like that. And then we'll get it spray sealed up. I usually just put it into a box like this or something, and I'll set this down in here like this, and I'll get it spray sealed like that. Okay, we are just about done here with this piece. It has been spray sealed with the Krylon Triple Thick, giving it that glossy kind of coating. Formatted here on a double, real simple mat with white border and gold outer, I don't know, whatever framing, matte, mount. But you can see that edge here, if I can get it in focus here, that edge here with the gold on it. Like how good that gold looks with the gold edging or coating, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, with the Brilliance ink on the side of the stamp board. It just, I don't know, it just kind of finishes off the piece really nicely. Okay, so now I have spray sealed this, but I was looking, some of the little scratch marks have kind of blended in. Now you can kind of put in a little bit of extra kind of finishing touches on here if you need to. What you're doing is you're scratching right through the Krylon Triple Thick. So it is thick, of course, but you can get in there and do a little bit of extra kind of detailing work, and it's cool to do that. It kind of makes it look, I don't know, whatever, a little bit even more dimensional, maybe. I don't know. It's given me a real crisp, kind of scratch or cut into the board here. I don't know, I can just see these extra little highlights. I have to be careful here because that border here with that slathering of gold ink is still wet. I mean, it will dry, this Brilliance ink. It's a water-based, somewhat faster drying ink than your typical pigment ink or metallic pigment ink at that. Sometimes the metallics are a little bit thicker with that, whatever, I guess metal that they use in the ink. Okay, but I think that is it. There, I just put a few more little kind of defining scratches right around in here. But, okay, so one of the things that you'll notice, if you ever do one of these pieces, especially on a board this size, the 5x7, is that it has some heft to it. That board is a pretty dense one. And that being said, it has a really good kind of tactile weight to it. Now, I'm formatting this into like a card, but I believe there are 5x7 inch frames out. You can see some gold on my hand when I was handling this, trying to get it matted up here. But you can frame these really nicely. These pieces right here, they come in kind of frameable sizes too. There's probably 8x10s. I don't know if there's 8.5 by 11. There could be, but it's pretty cool to do that. Or you can put it in some sort of like a cradled panel type of thing. I don't know what size the cradled panels come in. They come in some pretty small ones, I guess, but one's like a 6x6, but you can look into something like that. At some point in time, they're kind of raised, and you can hang them on your wall like that. I mean, this could be hung on the wall too. I don't know, I'd probably frame it though. So anyways, you can make this size. If the board itself isn't like a frameable existing size, you can kind of mat it up on something like this into a frameable size. Whatever, your standard frame sizes are. These days you can get, sizes, practically whatever size you want. You just designate your width and length and they, I don't know, they usually have it these days when you can just get stuff online as opposed to off the shelf. I would encourage you to get it, get it stuff from your local resellers though. Always good to support them. But that being said, if you can't find something, it's always out there in multiple different versions or sizes. All right, so anyways, let's do a little comparison contrast with this piece right here. This piece right here, of course, it's in warm tones. This one's in more of the cooler tones. Semi-gloss cardstock. Stamp board, 5x7 stamp board. This one's in a standard quarter page, 4.5 by 4.25 by 5.5. Not shiny because I didn't spray seal this one either. But I don't know, a little bit of a different look. Looks like this one's a little bit darker in terms of the finish, but if I spray sealed this one, though, those black inks and things like that would get a little bit more saturated and darker. So, I don't know, both fun to do. And I don't know, I like the look of both of them. This one right here feels a little bit better with that heft and just the, the weight of this board here. But I don't know, they're both really fun to do, and I'd recommend, if you feel like giving something a shot and trying it out, this is a pretty good surface to do that with. You can utilize a lot of your favorite techniques with this too. It doesn't have to be done like I did on here. If you have some medium that you like working with, be it, I don't know, whatever alcohol inks or dye bastings, I don't know, whatever you want to do, you can try it on this type of panel right here. And it's going to be similar to working on like a piece of semi-gloss cardstock in terms of the way that the surface accepts the inks, and you can kind of blend them in and so on and so forth. I used to see a lot of boards done by, I think it was the Queen's Ink that was working with ampersand art too, when we were working on things like the stamp boards and things like that. They were doing a lot of alcohol ink finishes on that, the boards and the boxes, the Claybord boxes. That looked really fantastic. So, all right, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks as always for tuning into the Stampscapes channel. If you like these videos, hope you hit the like and subscribe.